Let me introduce you to Ansis Egle, who is a communication and branding expert, and he's going to be conducting this conversation with Maximilian Birner out of BoxHub, who is an, I must say, award-winning social entrepreneur. Maximilian, can you hear us? Is the connection okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right, we're hearing you. So I've checked your connections, Ansys. You're all good. 25 minutes at your disposal until our next break.
Yeah,
Anything you need
thanks.
my assistance, or
No, I guess
I'm free
we'll
to go.
get along.
All
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
good. Okay,
sure.
Ansys, it's all up to you.
Okay, so hi Max.
Hey, Ansis, how are you?
Oh, quite good. So that's quite a strange feeling actually running fireside chat like in between like I don't know how much 1,000 kilometers or something
I'm actually in Toronto,
in Toronto.
so
Oh,
it will
even
be it
more.
will probably be 7,000, 7,500,
Oh,
something like that.
jeez, Christ, right. Great. So Max, can I call you so?
Sure,
Yeah, sure.
Max is easy.
So let's start from the beginning, from the scratch. And what I figured you're a graduate from art school, right?
I studied at a university called University of the Arts, London, but I did study retail management. So it is a university that offers a lot of arts classes, but unfortunately, maybe um, I'm not a graduate of an arts course. Yeah.
Okay, but anyway, like here, I would say the conception of art school is something rather really different to the entrepreneurship generally. So artists are not meant to be entrepreneurs in a sense, you know, back in the days, and probably this stereotype still persists. But how come like you started with a retail and at art school and ended up as an entrepreneur? So what's your approach to that?
Yeah, so I think how I got into entrepreneurship was just very lucky. I met or made a friend through other friends, through other connections while I was studying at university, and he was already an entrepreneur then, a few small companies, and we just started meeting up, discussing his ideas. And before I actually finished university, we thought there was a great connection. We thought we had an idea that was worth pursuing, and just started it without me having any knowledge whatsoever about technology, about startups, about building companies, and I just got drawn into it, and I think I was with that first company, which is still there, still successful. I was there for 4 years as CEO, and we learned. I learned startups the hard way, and all the challenges that come with it. But it was never a plan for me to become an entrepreneur first.
So what was the plan then? Art, retail.
The plan was actually to become a consultant. To be honest, I had done some investment banking internships, and I think I wanted to try out consulting, but we started my company, or my first company, after or in my second year of university, and we had raised funding before I even graduated. And there was even a time where I thought about dropping out of university, which I didn't. And don't do that, guys, if you're already in your second or third year. But yeah, so I think it would have been a boring consulting or investment banking career, rather than thankfully what I've been up to now.
Yeah. So what about the school? You just said like guys don't drop out. I've attended several schools, some of which I've dropped out as well, but some
Yeah.
I finished. And what is the like reason to stay there despite whatever difficulties are there?
So, I mean, I think it depends on your situation entirely. I think in certain cases it's totally worth dropping out, and in certain cases it's worth not even starting in the first place. I think university is not for everyone, and in my situation particularly, when the company started going, and was becoming successful, I had done over 2 years of a 3-year course, and I had the opportunity to just finish it another half year writing my dissertation, without it having too much of an impact on my business in the company. If it would have been earlier, if I had founded the company maybe a year earlier, I don't think I would have graded.
Okay, great. So
Yeah.
going further, I read in your profile on LinkedIn that you did a lot of, I would say, rather NGO type of work, not strictly, creating companies and selling them as fast as possible. Why so? What's the motivation behind it?
I think all of that came after I left my first company. So my first company is a company called Tomoko. We were one of the first providers of location-based marketing, so using Wi-Fi, Bluetooth for hyper-location marketing. And advertising, marketing technology is a very particular field, which I never planned to get into. And building that company was a lot of fun, but it was also not something that I wanted to do forever. And that's also why I left after 4 years. And I left the company in the hands of basically my other co-founders. And after I left, I took some time off. I traveled around the world for a year. I met a lot of other investors. I met a lot of other startups. I spoke to people. I helped them always for maybe a few weeks or a month or a couple of months. And my next career choice was again really by chance when I was asked to go to the Middle East, to Jordan, and help a startup set up, which was an NGO. It was a tech startup because it was an online platform, an online donation platform, the first one in the Middle East. In that sense, it was a tech startup, but it was an NGO. It was a nonprofit, and I did that for a few months, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed the different, the impact that I had on the world doing that, and the sense for me of achievement and success was a lot higher than in the advertising industry. And I think everyone needs to decide that for themselves. But for me, that just really sparked a fire that I really want to continue, doing something good for the world. And I think we need founders, we need investors, we need startups that focus on those types of things, whichever area it might be. But having a positive impact is, I think, very, very important.
Okay,
And so my further career, I always try to help or build companies that have some positive impact at least.
Okay, how do you think you can inspire upcoming and probably not yet entrepreneurs? Because a lot of people are listening to you, listening to all the other talks, all around the internet, everywhere. Like people are just trying to get an idea, to $1 billion idea and get moving forward. But normally, as it as experience says, that it's not as that always. So, what would be the suggestion for the probable entrepreneurs who are just kind of trying to figure whether to jump there or not?
So I think first, being an entrepreneur is not sexy. It's not what most people think. It's very difficult. It's very hard. It's long hours. It's constant pressure and risk. I think it needs a very specific type of person to wanna be an entrepreneur. And I think there are various ways of testing out if you're that personality and if you're that person. I think one of them is literally just like the old way, joining a very, very early stage startup for an internship even, while you're still studying or after your studies. And see, if it's a 5 to 10 to 15 people startup, then even as an intern, you will have a lot of touch base and touch points with a founder. And every startup is looking for interns. So you will see the work that the founder is doing. You will see over a couple of months or 3-4 months, how difficult it is. And I think you can evaluate for yourself if that's something that you want to do, or if you want to, specialize into one of the fields that the startup does, let's say, marketing or the finance part or tech development, product, and maybe not become founder, but become an employee of a startup, which is, as good or even better. So I think, test it out, join a couple of very early stage startups to see if that's for you. And, when you get to a stage where you think this is the right thing, then, nowadays, unlike maybe 10 or 20 years ago, you have a lot of easy opportunities to test your ideas, right? To get it to market, to test if for 3, 4, 5 months without spending too much money, if this is a viable product or not. And those times will then definitely make you understand if this is something you want to continue or not.
Okay, do you remember exact moment when that clicked for you? Hey, this is the thing. I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. Like kind of feeling.
That's a good question. I think it happened at some point, because I don't think I'll ever be anything else. So I'm on my third company now. We just founded it a couple of years ago, and looking forward, I think it will maybe still always be the same one. It might be a few different ones, but I will always be an entrepreneur. So I think that spark and that moment definitely happened at some point. I guess it was in the first few months of when I spoke with my co-founder of my first company, when I was not an entrepreneur yet. But we met up every week for hours at a time. We discussed the challenges that he's facing as an entrepreneur. We're discussing the challenges that we would be facing if we started a company. And I think I really enjoyed that at that time much more than the experience that I had with banking or consulting. And so I think then it happened, and the first 4 years of my first startup were partly very difficult, partly very successful. And I think you need to love all of it. You need to be able to love the good times, but you also need to be able to enjoy and getting through the very, very tough times.
Do you like to jump into unknown? That's what I feel.
I think so. Yes, sure. I mean, I really enjoy the first stages of a company. I don't think, at least now and over the next few years, I don't think I'm the right guy for a 200 employee company that has raised $200 million. I think I really enjoy, and I'm the guy that solves the initial product challenges, that figures out if there's product market fit at all, that hires the first team, that brings everything together until the company is scaling and doing and being successful. And then I think afterwards, I think that's it. Being a CEO then becomes a totally different job. And I think that's for something else, for someone else.
Okay. So when was the first time you were confident that all the bills will be paid out of this entrepreneurial part?
I think it was probably, for me personally, it probably was when we closed our Series A round for my first company. At the time, it was a very rare situation for us, because we closed a round, like a Series A round, with a few angel investors, but also with a private equity fund, and which, to me at the time, so there's a lot of pros and cons for that, and everybody needs to decide in their respective situations if that's the right thing to do. But for us, it was a sign that we can, like, very, very, very experienced investors that usually invest just in larger entities, trust us and believe, even at an early stage, that we can figure out, how to make this successful, even though we might not know at that time if our strategy works, and we might have to pivot or not. But at that time, in a company, investors invest in teams, in entrepreneurs. And I think that was a sign for us that, we are not that stupid, and we can figure out challenges when they come up, even if the next one doesn't work out. And I think that was the time when I realized, I like to solve those challenges, and I think I can be successful doing that. And if you enjoy what you do, and other people think the same and trust you, I think that's a huge indicator for you that's the thing that should work out.
Okay. Do you live your dream right now?
Look, I think every day is probably a different answer to that question. So, in a startup, one day can be the best day ever, and the next day can be the worst day ever. So, I think I'm living the dream being an entrepreneur in that sense, because I just enjoy it, and I'm happy with with the tough times, as I said before, and getting through that. But living the dream always depends on the daily situation and daily performance of how well the company is doing.
Okay. So overnight success came to you after 5, 10, 15 years. How was it? Like if we're comparing that.
No, never overnight success. Always long work, and I think I got the passion very early on that I wanted to do that, and my first company was okay, successful. The non-profit that I started in the Middle East got taken over by one of the biggest foundations in the Middle East just after 1.5 years. So I think that was another good indicator that we can build things that really work out, that are interesting for customers but also for potential acquirers. And I think now the one that I'm working on now is probably going to be the most successful one. Yeah.
Okay, good. So let's talk about 25 million containers which are traveling currently all around the world, and probably some of them are in Toronto, some of them are in Riga. How about the BoxHub? Are you planning to sell it back to Maersk at some point?
It's funny that you say that. My co-founder, who originally had the idea for this company, used to work for Maersk for over 10 years. So he knows the shipping industry very well. He knows the container industry very well. And I mean, for anybody who doesn't know what BoxHub does, is we make it easier for customers, both business and private consumers, to buy shipping containers. If you want to transform them into houses, or your market, or a pool, or a bar, any structure that you can pretty much build with other materials. You can build with shipping containers at a much cheaper price, and so we built an online marketplace that makes it easy for you to buy those. And on the other hand, of course, there are so many containers, as you mentioned, 25 million in the world, and every day there are more and more produced in China. So there is an aspect to it that says the shipping containers are getting produced in any case, and they will get retired or scrapped after shipping lines don't use them anymore. And so there is a sustainability and environmental angle to recycling shipping containers in that sense. And so I think that's also what we're pursuing. So I think it's a big opportunity. There are not many players in the market yet, and I think I really believe in the trend that recycling materials to build structures is very important for our future. And I think that goes hand in hand with building more affordable solutions for customers that can't afford building a house, for example, right now, that we're trying to solve as well.
Okay, I've been in some places, like in London, let's say Box Park, and then in Zurich in Freytag, not warehouse, but even a shop, like built out of containers. What's your, like, so to say, a dream container house, if you can imagine one? Have you seen it yet?
I think it really depends on your preference. I think Box Park is pretty cool. That Box Park even happened, I think, almost before our time. So they were, really ahead of forecasting that trend. Zurich I haven't seen yet, but I think what can really have a big impact and what's really cool are container houses that, let's say, are targeted for students, for example. Yeah. So if you go to Copenhagen, you'll see that the most popular student housing are actually container houses, and they're being built by the masses directly at the sea. almost in the center of Copenhagen. And it makes housing for students cheaper, and they're more popular. And I think applications like that are absolutely fantastic.
Okay. What do you think it will go on? Because I read the trend started like 30, 40 years ago, and it still goes strong, like for a container house. Even myself, I at some point considered maybe, hey, let's build out something out of containers. And I even checked online, and I found some suppliers, but I didn't pursue that idea at that time, because my wife said, hey, house, it's like really difficult to carry on and like take care of, and it's all time just put in the house. But what's your take on a trend? Will it go? Will it develop further?
I mean, so I think from third-party research that we've seen is that container housing is doubling in the next 5 years.
Doubling.
So
wow.
Doubling, yes, yeah. So I think there's a huge trend. I think it will grow on several sides that we haven't really seen before. So I think the market for building houses, sustainable housing for customers themselves is growing. So I think more people will buy container houses and actually transform them themselves. I think that is growing. I think the middle aspect of the market is growing, which is you're having more and more architectural firms now that offer to design container houses, or specialized providers that put them together, 3, 4 containers, 5 containers at a time, and then just basically manufacture them and ship them to you, readily designed. I think those are growing as well. And then there's a much smaller market, but that's also growing, is actually the luxury container homes market, where nowadays, and that just happened over the last few years, or started over the last few years. Now you have even a container house in the Hamptons, which is one of the most expensive areas to live in the world. So yeah, I think all of those are growing, and quite independently actually, because they target different customer groups.
Yeah, like I've been in Hamptons, but I haven't seen at that time, container housing. Probably it wasn't the time yet.
I've never been. I can't tell you where it is, but I've seen videos and a picture.
Yeah, probably we will see them soon. Okay, but some architects are actually resisting container housing and actually snubbing at it, like, hey, what's that? That's not architecture. What are you talking about? What you would say to that?
I mean, look, I think it's not my place to critique or influence an architect who wants to focus on any specific area. I think it's my place to try to understand what customers are looking for. And I think affordability and sustainability is what people are looking for. And I think that's a growing trend, and that will be growing for the next decade or longer or forever. And I think, container houses are not the entire solution. I think it's part of the solution for that. And I think, that's the market that we chose to be in. And so I think, we're serving that market, it's growing, but we also, at the moment, we just provide containers. So, for us, in that sense, it doesn't make a difference if someone gets a container to recycle it into a container house, or into a storage space, or into box park, or into pools. I think there are a lot of different use cases, and container houses are one of them.
Okay, Max, we're running out of time, unfortunately, but I would like to thank you a lot for this night fireside chat nearby the big mountain of ice. And I really wish you success, and we'll be looking forward. And let's catch up on the LinkedIn. Accept me as a friend, so we know each other at least a little bit right now.
I will. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Ansis and Max, such a great conversation. Enjoyed it tremendously, as I'm sure our audience did. Actually, so many potential takeaways from Max's experience. What's your main one? You have like 30 seconds.
The main one, I would say, doubling a container market. Really. So there is a huge potential for anyone who would like to take a chance. Really, and especially I was working with architecture for like several years, doing different projects worldwide, and I see, as I ask, some architects are snubbing it, like it's not cool. But I've seen piece of art, really, made out of containers. So, and definitely, if you want to do affordable and environmental friendly housing, that's one of the chances.
All right. Ansis, thank you very much for
Yeah, thank
leading
you.
this
Thank you.
conversation.